Hello, and welcome back to the Comics Alliance Podcast, presented by ComicsAlliance.com, your source for comic book entertainment culture, news, humor, and commentary. I'm Andy Khouri, Senior Editor of Comics Alliance. This week I'm joined by Senior Editor Caleb Goellner and Senior Writer Chris Sims, who share their impressions of this year's Emerald City Comicon and discuss in depth what distinguishes the fabulous Seattle show from other American conventions of note. For those of you who are unfamiliar with the event, Emerald City Comicon takes place in Seattle, Washington. It is directed by Jim DeMonicos, and there are other DeMonicoses involved in the planning of it. It is a very good convention. It's known as being a particularly comics-centric convention, as distinct from San Diego Comic-Con and New York Comic-Con and some other shows that have become very broader media conventions, and in fact media events in and of themselves, whereas ECC is a kind of community experience. I like to think of ECC as comic book summer camp, whereas San Diego is more like comic book finals week, if that makes sense. It's just fun to go to. You see all your friends. You see them at camp every summer. You have little sort of jamborees, which we had this year in the form of our party, and you sort of trade things. Like maybe in camp you traded cards and comics. Like this time it's the same thing, except the stuff we all make or love. And it's not so crowded that you can't get around. There's lots of big names, lots of small names, and I think, and you guys can speak to this in a minute, but I think the general tone of the crowd is one of discovery. They're happy to buy things that they haven't seen before, whereas other cons it's a bit of a hard sell because, as I said, they're very media focused, so they want to connect with the big iconic media stuff. Whereas Emerald City is about artwork and creators and just sort of the visceral enjoyment of comics and comic books as a social scene. Caleb Goellner, you have worked Emerald City as press before, but this year you were tabling, selling your own comic book products. Why don't you talk about that?
It was great. I've tabled at a few shows, smaller shows, and one bigger show, which would be New York Comic-Con, and the smaller shows being Planet Comic-Con in Kansas City. And this show I couldn't wait to table at, just because of the time I had spent in Artist's Alley at this show before. You pretty much can go in with a full wallet and leave with nothing, and you will just have a smile on your face because you can get whatever you want at this show. It's like you said, it's a show of discovery. There's a ton of retailers that you can dig through, like quarter bins. You can find old toys. You can get original art. And you can also hit Artist Alley and find new stuff that you've never heard of before. So tabling for me, I was really hoping to, you're on the receiving end, so you want to introduce new faces to your comics. And I had a really good time. I was always busy. It's funny, I'm used to walking the floor and having all this mobility. And at times, covering conventions, you spend more time in a hotel room or a lobby or a press room or anywhere but the show. So tabling has been a real eye-opener because I never left my table except for to...
Yeah, people had always compared Emerald City to me to being like Heroes Con, which is the show. It's close enough to be my home show. It's the one I've been going to for 7 or 8 years up in Charlotte, North Carolina. And having been to Emerald City now for the first time, I get that. And it was like you were saying, Andy, with it being 100% comics focused, because it really was wall-to-wall comics. Wall-to-wall on several floors comics. which is what HeroesCon is. HeroesCon is a great creator-focused show. A lot of independent books, not so many publishers, but lots of talent that love to come to the show. What I was not prepared for was the crowd. It was a huge, huge show as far as just people being there. They were sold out all 3 days, which I think they said it was like 70,000 people every day.
It didn't
which
feel
is
like
massive. It felt like it for me.
Well, when I say it didn't feel like that, I don't mean to suggest it was like a ghost town. I just meant it was manageable. It was easy to move around.
It was a very well laid out show, I think. Although there were areas that, like we've talked about with New York Comic Con and the Artist Alley there, where you could walk around that show for 3 days and not know there was an Artist Alley in basically a separate building. Emerald City did have like a lower floor that there was a lot of signage pointing to it, which was nice, but you could have easily missed it. But to what Caleb was saying, I'm used to doing shows where the non-San Diego shows, the non-New York shows. I'm used to doing cons where you sit at your table for a little while, you talk to people, you sell your stuff, you do some sketches, and then you get to get up and walk around and go say hi to everybody. I was legit planning on doing like 3 weeks worth of interviews at this show. I was going to clear out my calendar, guys, but I couldn't do it. There was so much foot traffic in there, not just keeping like me busy in Artist Alley with Scott Kowalczyk and Chad Bowers, but like you couldn't talk to like Matt Fraction or Kelly Sue DeConnick or Chip Zdarsky. I saw Chip Zdarsky at a party on Thursday night and then didn't see him for the show because there was always a massive crowd at his table, which is great. It's great to have that, and it's great for people like me and Caleb who have their tables, who are selling their stuff, because people there are interested in comics. They want to talk about comics. I sold a book to a guy because he was walking by with a copy of Judge Dredd Inferno. And I was like, hey, man, you like Judge Dredd Inferno? You should read Origins. And then we got to talking, and I sold him on our book as well. So it was really fun to see that. It was really fun to see so many people. And I got to say, I really like that people came up and said nice things about ComicsAlliance, that said nice things about Ask Chris and the new video series that I'm doing, the new podcast that we're doing right now. It was really nice to hear, because I've never been out in the Pacific Northwest before. And so pretty much everyone I was meeting, as far as people who are coming to the show, weren't people that have seen me before, like they have in Charlotte or in Columbia. It was a whole new crowd. And for me, having just had a graphic novel come out, it was a really new experience as far as conventions go. So I'm glad it happened at Emerald City, where things were laid out really nicely.
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Can I say one more thing?
Mm-hmm.
I have never been to a con, not San Diego, not New York, not even Heroes, which I think is kind of my gold standard. I've never been to a show that had so many people, like volunteers, working for the show, that were easily identifiable. They were all wearing, a very recognizable T-shirt. They were everywhere. They were circulating through, making sure things were going okay, helping organize lines, just checking in with the people who were tabling. I have never seen a show do that before, to the extent that Emerald City did. And I really, really appreciated that and thought it was cool. Because you could tell Emerald City is the con that really went all out in their anti-harassment policy and their zero tolerance for sexual harassment stuff. They were the ones that have done that on a level that even, San Diego just, I guess, refuses to do for whatever reason. So it was nice to see that. It was nice to see that there were people there if there were problems, and I didn't see any, and I certainly didn't have any, but it was nice to know that if there were problems, and if I did see anything, or if, I had been a cosplayer, that there were people there to go to. Like, it was a really heartening thing to see. So I really enjoyed my first time out at Emerald City.
Yeah, everyone talks about how well the organization's run, and I should mention again, it's the convention director is Jim DeMonicos, and he works with Christina Rogers, who both of whom are very approachable and want to hear what you have to say about the convention, and they're always trying to make it better. It's hard to imagine it being much better, honestly, because it is so fun. I worked closely with Andrea DeMonico's director of digital content on rolling out those Monsters and Dames art previews on Comics Alliance. Monsters and Dames is the annual ECC-sponsored art book where they have illustrators from comics and animation and beyond sort of create anything they want within that very broad theme. You have to have monsters and a woman. And the artwork is sold in a limited edition hardcover book and also auctioned, and all of it goes to charity. And I was told that this year the art auction raised $10,000 for, I want to say, the Children's Hospital in Seattle. I'll have to double check that while we're talking. But that's another community dimension of the show. They have a bunch of people, like very big names. So we previewed artwork from like Tim Sale and Frank Cho and David Peterson and Ryan Otley and like Camilla D'Erico, like contributing artwork, just to facilitate this charitable function. And also, it's part of the sort of aesthetic sensitivity of this show. You'll see such a diverse array of very talented illustrators in Artist Alley at ECC. People from comics like Chris Burnham and Gabriel Hardman. Gabriel Hardman, who, by the way, was doing something very cool. In addition to doing commissions and sketches and signing his comics with his co-writer and wife, Karina Beckko, he was doing life drawings of people who would sit for him, and he would just do sketches like that, and you would ask him why, and he would say, well, I don't get to do this all the time because I'm busy drawing comics and storyboarding movies and things like that. Like, Emerald City is the place where that can happen. I got to sit down with Brianne Druhard for almost an hour just talking about cartoons. She directed the Amethyst shorts for DC Nation and Warner Brothers Animation. And, while people were coming up, she was sketching and she was showing me, development artwork and stuff like that. Very happy to talk about it. This is a very artist-friendly show, and I think that probably speaks to why people do so well in Artist Alley. Dustin Nguyen was there. Mitch Gerads was there. Just basically like a whole array of talent from the sort of American industry is very well represented and very accessible. So if you're at all a fan of illustration and artwork, Emerald City is probably the best show you can go to. With respect to the downstairs level, that would be my only criticism of the show from an organizational standpoint. I heard tell of it, of the sort of downstairs Artist Alley. I started calling it Dark Con because it was there was signage if you knew to look for the signage, but they put a bunch of people down there, and the Artist Alley at New York Comic Con, the much derided Artist Alley, is in a way kind of a good thing. It sucks that it's so. If you guys don't know what we're talking about, Artist Alley in New York Comic Con is like in a separate, like, annex of the convention center.
It's in a new annex, yeah.
Yeah,
it looks like a greenhouse.
Yeah,
it's beautiful.
You go through like a concourse and through some stairs, and it's a completely different like architectural style. It's like a real add-on, and it's where all the comic book artists and writers are put, unless they're a major exhibitor or a publisher. But just like some of the people we've mentioned, they would be in this annex. But what's cool about that is that what's not cool about that is that they don't get all that foot traffic that goes into New York Comic Con to see, the Big Bang Theory people or Game of Thrones or the video games and whatever. But if you do just give a shit about comics, you can stay there for the whole weekend. And you don't have to run into all those other people and that other stuff. So that's kind of what I like about the Artists Out at New York Comic Con. Emerald City wasn't like that. Emerald City is all comics, and it was easy to get to and from the publishers and the exhibitors and to the Artist Alley and stuff like that. Except for this one thing downstairs, the Dark Con, which I would suggest that it wasn't strictly necessary. I mean, we're really nitpicking. Like, it's almost not worth mentioning.
I didn't get a chance to go down there. Were there people down there?
Well, the weird thing about it was that it was like I was making a joke where they had sold too many spaces, and then they realized that they couldn't just put down, like, they couldn't just put a bunch of people in this weird lower floor. So they put in like 5 famous artists and Night Vale, and then the rest of it was a steampunk carnival. Which is basically what it was. Because you had, like, Frank Cho was down there, like, Tim Sale was down there.
I think the essential
Amanda
sequential
Connor.
guys were down there. Like
Amanda Connor and Jimmy Palmiotti.
Yeah. Tony Harris was down there, I think.
Yeah, Tony Harris. And Night Vale, the big Night Vale Thrilling Adventure Hour table. And then just, like, weird stuff. Like, weird steampunk accoutrement and giant dinosaurs made of yarn, which, by the way, I wanted. Like, that is not a slight on them. Like, I wanted that really bad. But Chris Robertson was down there. Like, the Monkey Brain table was down there. I had a signing down there. For what, I don't know, because we can't sign Comixology files.
You sign iPads.
Nobody has let me sign their iPad yet. I don't know why. Could it be because I'm not actually famous?
Or they couldn't find you in the Dark Con.
Maybe.
Just give it time.
I had a guy who really wanted to talk about his book of Deja Thoris nudie covers. Which that is what that lower floor was like for me.
What were some highlights of the whole show experience? You could talk about not just on the show floor, but maybe because part of Emerald City is the social scene too. Like I'll tell you mine. It was of course our party that we co-hosted with Oni Press, which was itself a very sort of community like organic thing that came about. Like they were looking to have a party on Thursday night. The convention starts Friday, so kind of a kickoff party in cooperation with the con itself. And they knew I DJ'd a little bit, and I said, "Well, why don't we make it a bigger thing, and we can, work together and have some co-signage and things like that." And that was really fun. That was like a 4-hour event at the hotel, and it was open to anyone really. I think all the invitations went out to everybody who was attending, everyone that the con had an email address for. And there was a cool photo booth, and it was a cool, like, you had readers, and you had professionals, and sort of everybody in between was having a good time. I was playing some music, and getting to see everybody as they all got off the plane, pretty much. And it spilled out into the lobby. It was so well attended. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, that was great. I got in a little late just because I had some work to finish. But when I got in, everybody was already like having a blast. So it was kind of like showing up to the party just a little late when it's in full swing. And I kind of like had to make a tornado through the room to say hi to everybody. The photo booth was rad. Andy was playing the choicest cuts of all time. And it was good. Like, what I mean to say is everybody had like 3 drinks by then, so they were in the mood to be friendly and like hang out. But yeah, it was killer. I enjoyed that a lot.
Like aside from DJ Andy Khouri on the Wheels of Steel, which was a highlight, which I did enjoy. The party was fun, but I think my highlight, I'm going to go with 2. So number 1, we sold out. We sold.
You sold out.
He's writing Wolverine now.
I thought you were going to keep it real, man. I thought you were going to make it arts, capital A.
You know I'm in it for the money. I've always been in it for the money. Selling out would be not being in it for the money. Chad and Scott and I both bought, all 3 of us brought about 10 or 11 copies of Downset Fight each, and we ended up selling them all. We got a restock from Oni, and we sold a bunch of those too. So that was awesome. This is the first con since it came out. So the first big con since it came out. So that was a really big deal for us. It was very fun. There was a table across from me that I would think I was making them really mad because I was just fanning 20s and going, "Oh, it's so hot in here." Oh, because I'm an asshole. Did you guys not know that?
You made people angry by being yourself?
Yeah, it was funny.
Were you fanning yourself in like a really exaggerated, like Southern Belle kind of way?
Yes. Yeah, I actually grew a mustache and pulled out a mint julep.
We're like, I do. Did you say I do declare? And I believe I'm getting the vapors.
I said, your Pacific Northwest does not agree with a Southern flower like myself. The other cool thing that happened was I ran into Ryan North, who was always a pleasure to talk to, one of my favorite guys to interview, one of my favorite guys to read his comics. I love Ryan North, and he told me that he's waiting for an opportunity in an interview to talk about how I know more about Batman than he does. That's what he told me. So the next time anyone interviews Ryan North, ask him about knowing things about Batman. Give him that open, because he promised me he'd say it. But yeah, hearing from people who like the site is always really fun. And the comic is new, so I haven't heard from a lot of people who've read that and come back to tell me they enjoyed it. I did get a couple, which was nice, but it's always good to hear that people like Comics Alliance.
Yeah,
because we work really hard on it. We work really, really hard.
Yeah, Comics Alliance isn't easy, and it was well represented at the show. I was on a panel with Rachel Edidin from Wired and formerly of Dark Horse, who writes for us sometimes, about diversity in our culture, our geek culture specifically, and how to achieve it. What are the benefits of it? That's putting it very simply. It was a big topic. G. Willow Wilson was there. Sherilyn was there. Sherilyn Eaton. She writes for us sometimes too. Janelle Aslin did 2 panels that I saw. A sexual harassment panel with Laura Hudson, our erstwhile founder, and Rachel was on that one as well. Janelle also did a live panel version of her Hire This Woman feature that she does on the site, where she had a number of women creators talk about their work. And like the feature, it's a very cool thing about it is that it's not about gender in comics or about being a woman in comics. It's about just work. And that's sort of the trick with that feature. And Kate Leth, the cartoonist Kate Leth, who does a bi-weekly cartoon for us, Kate or Die, she was on a number of panels, of course, promoting her work on Adventure Time and so forth. But she also did a panel with Dean Tripp about his digital comic, Something Terrible, about childhood sexual abuse, talking about that kind of stuff. And it was actually a very good and uplifting panel, despite the topic. And so there was a lot of Comics Alliance representation in the programming, and I hope that there'll be more going forward. What about you, Caleb?
Well, it was funny for me. Nobody talked to me about Comics Alliance who came to my table.
It's almost like you don't have a weekly column with a drawing of your face at the top of it, and then you don't talk about yourself all the time.
Maybe. Who can say? I'm not here to answer life's mysteries. This isn't Cosmos. But yeah, no, that was actually kind of nice because I knew everyone who was stopping at my table just thought my banner with a merman with no nose, who is the color of a Simpsons character and a Lego man, just looked weird. And they just wanted to look at the random comics that we had. Artist Buster Moody and I, our book Task Force Rad Squad, and then my book Mermaid Evolution. So, we just had total... we had a few people who were maybe familiar with the web edition or the digital edition of the books from social media and stuff. But pretty much everybody who stopped at the table and bought something or wanted to talk, it was about the work. So I knew that, nobody cared about Comics Alliance, or for me, for Comics Alliance, when they came to talk, it was all purely about mermaids punching dolphins and not Power Rangers fighting, giant cat monsters and stuff. So that was nice. It was cool to get to talk to people about Super Sentai and Tokusatsu and Ninja Turtles and, drawing. I got to talk to a lot of folks just about art. And then we were tabling next to Doc Shaner and Mitch Drouds. And so it's always very educational. Since I started drawing a lot more, you get to talk to these guys just about how they do things, what their day looks like, in ways that I wasn't necessarily, I was always interested, but I never could apply that knowledge to my day the way that I kind of can now to a small extent. So it was just, it sounds like pretentious, but it was an enriching show, like I got to actually talk a lot about art and just like making comics and get a lot of insight from people who are at really different stages of their career. So it was dope. And then all the other parts of the show, just as far as walking around, I know I said I didn't get to walk around very much, but on the occasions that I did, there was just stuff I'd never seen. You feel when you go to these shows, this was my fourth Emerald City, my first one tabling, but my fourth one, period, since I started this job. You go to so many cons per year, like we all probably go to 6 to 12 cons a year at least. And you start to feel like you've seen it all, or that you know what's coming before the show comes, or that you don't even have to look at a program guide because you're like, it'll be like 30% of all the people that are normally at a big show. It's like, who's going to be there? I don't know. I'll find out when I get there. It's the usual people, This show, I didn't have that feeling. I saw a lot of new books. I met a lot of new people who I had never met before, who are starting off, and this is maybe the first time they've ever tabled or the second time. So that was really cool. I got to see a lot of new indie books, a lot of new one-shots and mini comics.
I had a cool thing happen to me a few times where some artists would come up to me and say that they had been in Best Art Ever, which is the weekly art post I sort of compile. It's like fan art, basically, or little scene art from commissions or ancient house ads and things like that. And I put new people next to established people, just in a sort of almost random way, like kind of like a mixtape. And they come up to me and they
kind of mirrors Artist Alley. It's like a curated. It's like the work of Artist Alley in a row. In that regard.
Yeah, that's a good way to think about it, actually. It's definitely inspired by Artist Alley. And the old DC gallery books. That's
You should do one for San Diego that's inspired by San Diego's Artist Alley, where it's just like 3 pictures and 2 of them are like Legion of Superheroes porn. I hate San Diego's Artist Alley. Is the joke there?
Yeah, it's not a good Artist Alley. But anyway, more than a couple artists came up to me and said, "Hey, thanks for putting me in that thing. I got a lot of traffic from that. I got commissions, or I got cover gigs. Like, I don't want to I mean, I don't know the politics involved, so I'm not going to say who, but I know like some people in the post get cover gigs for some publishers. I know some have gotten hired as character designers, animation, and things like that. Like, it's a good." It's nice to hear that it's actually like a good showcase for other people. Like, we started doing it just because there was just so much stuff, because DeviantArt and Tumblr had exploded, and it was just hard to like find like the coolest stuff and put it in one place so it was easy to see. But it was also because you can't find artist credits anywhere anymore. So that's really its main function, is to sort of find all the cool like mimetic art and put a name on it so people know where to go just to buy a print or whatever from whoever did it. But that was cool, and I got some payola, if you will. I got a little bag from Babs Tarr, who's a great artist who did the Sailor Moon as a biker girl gang artwork that inspired all those cosplays, and Bethany interviewed her about her fashion style and as it relates to cosplay, and it's just like another form of like a portfolio, I guess, that's out there, like a way, because like comic book editors and some animation people like read it every week. But it goes back to what I was saying about how this show is about comics and about artwork and creativity and community. It's where all these things sort of manifest like physically. It's very cool. You feel good when you're there. It kind of feels like the image I think of in my mind when I think about like, oh, I'm going to Emerald City next week, I think of like sitting on a porch with like all my friends, like on really comfortable chairs, and just sort of watching the world go by, and it's all really entertaining and fun, and we have really great conversations. that's kind of how I feel about Emerald City. That's kind of what happens at night, actually, at Emerald City, except instead of a porch, it's the Sheraton bar. And everyone, that's what's cool about it. It's not like at San Diego where you're trying to find, if you're in the industry, you're like, where's everybody going? And you're like sending all these text messages, and, you know, people are spread out all over the place and going to parties that not everyone can go to. And everyone just goes to the Sheraton and hangs out. And that's where you can, you know, get your FaceTime in and just, you know, have hilarious conversations with all your friends who, I'll use the summer camp metaphor again, you only see at summer camp. You know, you sort of pick up where you left off and have adventures and alcohol-fueled dares and things like that.
And then even like people in Portland, that everybody who works in comics like never leaves the house. So except for like signings for their books that come out and all that. So it was good to see everybody just from down the street and to be able to say, yeah, I'll see you in a couple weeks or see you at the next thing.
I do not dig on the bar crowd at the Sheraton. I was not into it.
Do you have like crippling social anxiety?
No. Like that's the thing. Like I think I was talking to Anna, Caleb's wife, and she was like, "Oh right, Chris doesn't like crowds," and I was like, "No, it's not that I don't like crowds. I guess it's that I don't like the crowd." I mean, I like hanging out with people, but there was so much noise and it was really crowded, and like there were a bunch of people that I wanted to see and hang out with, but I just was not, like, after a long day at the con, I just wasn't feeling that. So what I did was I went back to my hotel room with the dudes who do Trip Fantastic, Jason Baxter, Matt Hamilton, and Derek Jarm, and we watched License to Kill with Timothy Dalton.
Like on a laptop?
James Bond. Yeah, they had the DVD with them for some reason. And I was going to go watch Quantum of Solace and go to sleep. And they were like, well, we have License to Kill on us right now. So that became what I did 2 nights in a row in Emerald City.
Those guys with weird movies, it's almost like knowing a guy in college who always had weed or something. It's like, what are we going to do after this party? And like somebody pulls it out of their bag, and instead of it being an illicit substance or like a 6-pack or whatever, or a flask,
License to Kill.
It's a shitty James Bond movie.
It's a 1989 James Bond movie.
It's a shitty one too.
It's terrible. It's really bad.
Living Daylights is the better Timothy Dalton one.
But it's like the perfect movie to watch with a bunch of bros. Like, you know, like, hey, we'll go down to the hotel bar, get martinis for everybody, then go up to the room and watch this movie. Like, it's the perfect movie for that. So
I'm glad you found people to do that with, because going up to your room and watching Quantum of Solace, that is like the Quantum of Solace right there.
I mean, that's not uplifting.
You know. Okay. I think that's all I have to say about Emerald City. It's a good time, good work, Demonicos, and please have us back next year.
Yeah,
Best show of the year.
So what other cons are you fellas going to be at in the near future?
I'm going to WonderCon to do something that I'm not allowed to talk about yet.
Oh.
I'm going to be moderating a panel. It's not really that big a deal. I'm just not allowed to talk about it yet. People will be annoyed because it's making... the more I speak and the more pauses I leave between my words, the more important it sounds. So it's not that big a deal. But then I am going to San Diego Comic-Con, as I do every year. Like,
gross.
Yes. And I think you guys might be there too, in the condo, which we spell Khondo.
I think I'm going to be washing my hair that weekend.
I don't think you are, my friend. I think
I think I'm going to be sick that weekend.
What shows are you going to, Chris?
I'm actually doing a local toy show this weekend, which I suspect will just be a plotting session for me and Chad's next book. I'm doing Fluke on April 19th in Athens, Georgia, which is a mini comics and zine show. Downset Fight is one of the sponsors of the show, so Chad and I will have a table with a bunch of books and a lot of great local artists from the Atlanta and Athens area. A lot of SCAD people are going to be down there. Jordan Witt is coming down from Washington, D.C. Cal Starks did the show last year, but I don't think he's going to make it this year, which is a shame because he has an amazing new Kickstarter out. Then after that, in June, is, of course, HeroesCon in Charlotte, North Carolina, which is always my favorite show of the year. And then probably whatever shows I get sent to at the end of the summer for ComicsAlliance.com.
What about you, Caleb?
I'm going to have a table with Buster Moody again at C2E2, which is the end of this month in Chicago. And then after that, I think all I've got is San Diego for Comics Alliance. And, the Emerald City people, they also put on a show. This is its second year in Portland called Rose City Comicon. I do have a table at that, and that's in like the third weekend of September. So I'll be at that as well, and then probably New York again for Comics Alliance, and then maybe one or two other things, depending on what my schedule looks like this summer.
Why is it called Rose City Comic Con? Is that a nickname for Portland? Rose City?
Yeah. I've only been here 4 years, and in that time, I have not discovered what the rose thing is. I think it's like an old timey thing they used to do. They have like a rose parade. They have like sports teams with rose motifs. I think it's because Tuxedo Mask is from here.
Wow.
That's what I'm just gonna go with. So.
I like to think that you've been working on that one since I asked you this last weekend.
No, I wish.
It was Rose City, and you were just like, I don't know.
All right. Well, thank you, gentlemen, for sharing your Emerald City Comic-Con memories with us. We were going to have Janelle Aslan on this, but she said she was too sick and that her voice sounded, too much like Kathleen Turner, I suppose. But please come back next week, listeners, and we'll talk more about Tuxedo Mask.